Welcome to today's episode of the Bad Influence Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas, and I hope you had a good Thanksgiving with your family and had lots of amazing food, because I know I did. I'm stuffed. So, it's been a few weeks since we bought this house, the one that I'm recording from right now, and people keep telling my wife and I that we made a mistake. And when I ask them why that is, the reasoning is that the economy is not doing well, which is true, and then there's inflation, which is true, and everything else that they have heard about, which obviously it can be true. And I can understand where they are coming from, because these are friends, family members, like people that actually do care. That's why I understand where they're coming from. And I mean, in theory, they are right. Everything that they're saying is happening. There is inflation. Their economy is actually doing semi-good. There's good days, bad weeks, good weeks, bad weeks. So they are right. But here's the thing. When people tell me all of their concerns about us buying a house, my answer is simple. It's very, very, very simple. And that is, we, my wife and I, have a budget. Because we didn't just wake up one day and say, let's buy a house. Nope, that's not how it happened. I know people that actually have done that, but we didn't do that. We actually set up a budget years ago. We've been working towards this dream of owning a house probably like 2 or 3 years. So we set up a budget that long ago. And because we did this, it allowed us to buy a house and actually make the payments and not have to worry about not being able to make the payments, because we put so many things into consideration when we made this budget that it's working for us. And yes, I use the B word, a budget, that for some reason I have noticed that a lot of people are scared of. When I use that word, they're like, ooh, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like trying to scare them or something. Because one of the things that I tell people is that in order for us to create this budget that will work for us, my wife and I made sacrifices of not going out or buying the things we wanted, because we wanted to have a home. We didn't need, expensive clothes. My wife didn't need expensive purses, if you know what I mean. We wanted a home, so we work towards this goal by budgeting. And one of the things that I also tell people is that we were waiting until at least next year to buy the house. We were like, okay, we're going to buy it on 2023. That's not going to be a problem. Our budget will be even better by then. But we had to jump the gun and buckle up because of the steep rent increases. You know what I mean? Like, there has been huge rent increases. Some people are paying like $300 to $400 more than last year for a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's what was going to happen to us. So we decided to just say, fuck it. Let's buy a house. We have the budget. We know we can make the payments. So we jumped the gun. But here's one thing that I really find funny. And I find funny how people react when I use the word budget. Because there have been instances where people actually react like if I'm cussing them out when I bring out the B word. And I have cussed people out my entire life, so I know the reaction. They looked at me like, oh my gosh, all offended. They act like I offended them. And I think that's actually funny, because people have gotten defensive with me when I tell them that they might have to use a budget, or when I bring up the word budget, they get all defensive like, nope, don't talk to me about that. Literally, they go into like this defensive mode because some people have told me that they feel like I'm calling them poor, which that's not the case. But there's nothing wrong with feeling poor, but people don't like it. Obviously, I don't like it either. I don't like to feel poor because it makes me feel like I can't take care of my wife. So I hate that feeling. It's not a good feeling to feel like you're poor, that you can't afford certain things that you need or that you want. And because of this, I have noticed that there are a lot of people that hate, like absolutely hate budgets. Like they despise them. But I did that in the beginning when we started doing the budgeting. I hated it. But, and I'm gonna say this and I'm going to share this with you, creating a budget seriously helps, especially when there are hard times in life. Not just because of the economy, but also when there are personal hardships at home, like illnesses, a car breaking down, utilities being behind, the rabbit hole that life throws at you sometimes. Like pretty much what happened between me and my wife. She got sick. And that's one of the reasons why we started budgeting, because after we lost her income due to her becoming extremely ill, I became the sole breadwinner, and we have only one single income. So we went from 2 incomes to 1. That is fucking hard though. But we have been able to get what we need, but it also took us years to achieve that. It took us years of planning, like we're not gonna go out this time, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna buy clothes, we're not gonna do that. That's part of the budgeting. And that allowed us that a few years later, we bought a house, It allowed us to buy this house a few years later. Now, I am going to say this though. It's not easy sticking to a budget. It is not, but it also helps, especially around this time of the year. When you have all these expenses because of the holidays. When you celebrate the holidays, you have all these expenses of traveling, because you have to go see family, or you want to go see your family, so you have to pay for that. You have to buy gifts for them and your friends. So money can be tighter around this time, and then you add on everything else from your daily life, and that can lead to a recipe for disaster. And the worst part of all is that it can make you or turn you into a ball of stress. Have you feel like that recently? Probably towards the last week before, probably towards the last week, probably before the week before Christmas. That's when you start getting all stressed, because maybe you don't have all your gifts yet. You get all stressed. You order Prime that it's supposed to be 2-day delivery, and because of something that happened, you don't get it on time. I used to work for a company that will get so busy around this time where people will literally buy their gifts on the 23rd of December and they expect it the next day. That was impossible. And people were stressed. And one of the things that happens around this time, which is important to mention, that's why it's also important to have a budget, is that so many people end up broke after the holidays. I used to go way overboard during the holiday season. I will start the new year broke as hell, and it wasn't a nice feeling. Let's be honest. It wasn't a nice feeling, but some of the things that I used to do during this time in previous years was that I was buying a lot of food for the holidays, for the reunions. Like in Mexicans, we have a bunch of parties throughout the holidays. We have Thanksgiving, then we have like the 12 days of Christmas, where we have like a party every day for 12 days until the 24th or the 25th of December. So it can get expensive because you have to buy gifts, you have to buy food, you have to buy all of these things. And I like expensive food. Like, I like good tasting food, which it turns out that is fucking expensive. So that's one of the things I used to do. The other thing was that I will buy gifts for literally everyone just so they will like me. How ridiculous is that? Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. I just wanted them to like me, and I will spend hundreds of dollars for a gift that I was gonna give to someone that never say hi throughout the year, you know? Like, it was just like, oh, I want you to like me, here's a gift, that's it. And that is ridiculous. That's why we end up broke, for doing shit like that. So that's one of the some of the things that I used to do. But another thing that I realize is how much money people waste on food. We, as a society, buy a lot of food, even if it's going to expire the next day. I've seen this happening. My wife does that a lot. And the problem is that we don't even care that it's going to expire the next day. So we buy it, we put it in the fridge, and then a few days later, we end up throwing it away because it has expired by then. Which means that we are throwing money down the drain. And I definitely wasn't raised this way. So this is one of the things that actually irks me a lot. I think that people here in this country are especially bad about this. Just ask my wife. She is really, really bad about this. Now, I feel like throwing away food due to overbuying is so wasteful. When I was growing up in Mexico, my mom will have never allowed us to throw away food unless it smelled terrible, to the point where you open the container and it's like, woof, like what the hell, or had mold. Once you open and you see the mold, it's like, nope, it's bad. Other than that, you throw it away, you don't eat. That's it. There's nothing else to eat. You either eat it or you don't eat it and starve. That's how I was raised. I know you can judge all you want, but that's how we survive. A lot of people survive this same way, especially in other countries. That's why when I see people throw away food, I'm like, it's still good food. Like the other day, actually. Well, actually, I know people that have thrown away food just because it's one day past the expiration date. I actually know someone that used to throw away around $300 a week worth of food because of this. They will throw away all the food that was expired by one day. The only reason why I found this out is because this person asked me how I managed to stay afloat because of my situation with only having one income. So I told this person that we do budgeting. I explained him how we do it, how my wife does it, what kind of sacrifices we had to make, and all of that. So he tried it and was very, very surprised when he saw how much money he saved by not overbuying food. This household was saving $300 to $900 a month by not overbuying food. Now, that's a lot of fucking food. When he told me that they were throwing away $300 worth of food a week, that's $1,200 a month. I'm like, dude, give me that money. I can put it to good use. Literally, I can pay my bills. I can get my wife's medication with that money. The medications that the insurance doesn't cover, you know what I mean? But another thing is that when people open up to me about their struggles with money, I ask them. I like to ask people questions. And this is one of the questions that I always ask when people tell me that they're struggling with money. And the question is, how come you don't budget? How come you don't budget? And I'd say that the answers that I get, they're typically the same. The answers are, I'm not poor. That's for poor people. Or simply people don't know what that is, what budgeting is. They tell me, it's like, I don't know what that is. I have never heard of that. So I explain them what it is, how they can do it. But the main thing that I want to take from this particular question and the answers that I get is that I get why you can feel poor when you're on a budget. I used to ask myself, why am I working so hard but can't buy whatever the fuck I want? I felt constrained, literally. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it made me mad to be on a budget. I was like, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing all of this? Why? I want to buy like a video game, for the PS4, but I can't afford it because of the budget, or I can't buy it because of the budget. So it's like, it can make you mad because you're working like 8 hours a day. Sometimes you're doing overtime, you're getting paid more because of the overtime. So literally you're busting your ass, but then you're not able to enjoy life based on what you want to buy. So that's how I felt. But after a while, I actually learned that budgeting has helped us survive on one single income, which is very important because that is fucking hard. But we have done it, and I'm very proud of it. So that's why I want to talk about this, and I like to say it because it makes me feel proud about ourselves. About my relationship with my wife, because we work hard to get to this point where we have been able to survive on one single income. Now, I do want to share this with you guys because growing up, my mom stretched her budget so much so we could survive that I thought she had a second job. Mind you, she was a single mom in Mexico, okay? I always ask myself, how can we afford all of this food on less than 400 pesos a month? And sometimes it will be even less. Not more than 400 pesos. Less. And 400 pesos is like, I would say, 40... less than $40 now, actually. Less than $40. Back in the day when we were down there, it was around like $40, something around that. So that's not a lot, because in Mexico has terrible inflation. Like, it's bad. You can buy a lot of things when you take your dollars down there, but when you're earning pesos, or when you're earning pesos, believe me, life is hard down there. That's why we move over here. So when people say that they don't want to feel constrained because of a budget, I just tell them, you must do whatever you need to do to survive the turbulent times. And you don't have to stay on a budget if you don't want to, because once you get through the hardship that you're facing right now, it could be because of the economy or whatever, kind of like with the examples that I gave, you can actually get rid of it. If you wish, you don't have to stay on a budget. But if you like it, you can just keep it. So it's pretty much up to you how long you want to be on a budget, and when are you going to get rid of that budget so you can go back to living the life that you want, Now, because of all of these conversations that I've had with other people in regards to budgeting and everything, I feel like the feeling of constraint comes from getting too comfortable buying certain things. Because we don't need to spend hundreds of dollars a month on coffee just because we don't want to make it, or just because supposedly Starbucks makes it better. Also, we don't need to buy lunch daily when we have bills to pay. We can make lunch and bring it to work a few days a week if needed. Hell, bring the leftovers. There's nothing wrong with eating leftovers. So I don't know why people don't like leftovers. My wife doesn't like leftovers. If she cooks today a big meal and there's leftovers tomorrow, she won't eat it. And I'm like, why? They're still fine. And she's like, I don't like it. I'm like, fine, I'll eat it. That's why I have gained weight. But I have found that when you're doing a budget or whenever you decide to be on a budget, the number one key to succeed on doing this is to be adaptable. But if you don't want to be on a budget for whatever reason and feel like you're struggling to stay afloat, then ask yourself this simple question. How can I keep up this lifestyle based on my current situation? And literally figure out what you need to do, like learning a new skill that will allow you to make more money or applying to another job that pays you more. Just figure out what you need to do if you want to keep that lifestyle. Because if you want to spend your $100 a week on Starbucks, but because of that you're broke, then figure out what you need to do to keep up that lifestyle where you can go to Starbucks every day and spend your $100 a week. Or maybe Starbucks is going to have to wait a while for them to get your money because you need to use that money for something better. And that's pretty much what budgeting is. You also have to sacrifice a lot of things, a lot of comfort, a lot of things that literally we don't really need. It's just things that we want. And that's what I wanted to share on today's episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the growth, the feedback. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The link is in the episode's description. And here are my final thoughts. Budgeting is essential. That's why big companies always have a budget. And have a great day.